There we go. We have a bottle. Let's move it over here. Let's try this with the example of the bottle. So let's say you have your bottle over here and you want to create a range of bottles. So you have bottle range 1, 2, and 3. So half a liter, 1 liter, 1.5 liters for all the different products. You select the whole thing. You go into pull, as we described previously, doing it once more. Click on scale body, and now it asks you to choose a point. Select the center point of the axis, and now you can just pull it and decrease it. So if you start with a scale of a 1 liter body, or if you have a 1 liter bottle designed, you can go to a scale of 0.5, and then you have half a liter bottle. And again, if you start with a 1 liter bottle and you go to a scale of 1.5, then you'll have a 1.5 liter bottle. This is simple mathematical relationships between them. So obviously this could come in useful, but it's more of an advanced tool. But then again, it's not that difficult once you practice and play around with it. The more you use these tools, the more familiar you will be with them, the more comfortable you will be using them. Right? So we covered how to sort of use the tools that we've learned, just simple line tool, the reference geometry or construction line, rounded corner, very basic tools, and how to import some geometry by dragging and dropping it into the workspace, similar to how we used to import files that we already have or that we are already using. Similarly, you can import reference geometry, either just reference images or actual engineering drawings with dimensions already on them. We can scale those by dragging and dropping, clicking and dragging on the corners of the image, as you would when you import it into an MS Word document or an MS PowerPoint document. It's the same image manipulation techniques. Once you have the proper size, you can use that as a reference. You can use the sketch grid that you have, right? Over there, right? If it would like to go into sketch mode, So the sketch grid that we have, here you can see the cross section of the bottle. So you can use the sketch grid as a guide in addition to the imported geometry or image that you have. And you can go off of that to create some interesting or complex geometry, or to reverse engineer some products or designs. To recreate them, to duplicate them. I also showed you the scale tool. This is another interesting one. Can be advanced. It can be, it's more advanced because of its applications. Because when you create basic geometry, you don't really use the scale tool that much. You only use it in more advanced engineering applications when you keep track of dimensions. Another interesting tool actually that I could show you is the measurement tool. So if you go onto the measure tab, an interesting tool that you can use is the measurement tool. You just click on measure, and then you can click on different points. So let's say we wanted to know what the diameter of this cap is. You just click on a face or on a dimension that you're interested in. So I could have clicked on this edge or on the surface. It gives you a couple of properties, right? It gives you the perimeter, of the surface that we selected. It gives you the area. It also gives you the diameter that we need. So here it's 3.8 millimeters, or roughly 4 millimeters across in diameter. So this would be a really tiny cap. You can hold Control when you select, and it will allow you to select more than one surface. Yeah. So you can measure between the surfaces. Yeah. So just some of those things, just as a quick reference for you to be able to sort of determine some geometry, some dimensions if you're more interested in that. Later on in some of the later weeks, we'll discuss more about how we can set parameters, how we can set some specific dimensions that we can control and edit in real time as we're designing and modeling. So as an example, we'd be able to set a parameter for the distance or the height of the bottle, and then after we model the bottle or as we're modeling the bottle, we could in real time affect the height of it without just using the pull properties or the pull technique. You can use it just by typing out values. Yeah, let's see some other. We've discussed the ellipse. Let's see some other of these drawing tools that we won't encounter that often, but might as well just briefly touch upon them. Let's see. Obviously, we've discussed the rectangle tool where you just define the edges or the corners. There's another tool which is called a 3-point rectangle. So this one, how it works, you choose one side, yeah, so you choose corner to corner and then height. This one can give you more parametric control over it, right? So pretty much you're saying this one, when you use a corner rectangle, you're defining both the length and the height at the same time using one drag and drop motion. So pretty much you're drawing it from corner to corner. Whereas with the 3-point rectangle, it requires obviously to set the length first and then the height. So you'd say, why would we use a 3-point rectangle? It seems like more of a hassle, more steps. Well, the thing is, I want to show you with the 2-point rectangle or a simple rectangle, you're limited to a rectangle just, you know, where the length is horizontal and the height is vertical, right? Which is a standard definition of a rectangle. But if you look closely over here for a 3-point rectangle, the rectangle is not straight, it's a bit skewed. So what you can do is you can put the length diagonally, and then you can draw sort of a rotated rectangle over here. See? So this can give you a few more interesting options, you know, to work with in your design or modeling. Yeah, obviously, maybe you could rotate this using the move tool, but we'll cover that in a later week. Obviously, you could rotate it like this. I'm just showing you this as an example. We'll cover this move tool in more depth later on. You can see how it will be very useful, but that's another way to sort of orientate your dimensions or orientate your rectangles. But that's just a bit of a difference between the normal rectangle and a 3-point rectangle. You also have a regular circle, but then you also have a 3-point circle. So this one you can, you know, just play around with it. It gives you just a bit more of a modeling capacity because it lets you define sort of points of an arc rather than just the center and the edge, right? So let's say you had 2 lines and you wanted to sort of inscribe a circle between them. You'd say, wait, over here it's difficult for me to put the midpoint of the circle because of the way the grid is laid out. So you'd always be like, oh, I can't put circle on this edge or on that edge because the center is sort of offset. See, it sort of snaps onto the grid. Well, with a 3-point circle, you could sort of theoretically put a point over there and a point over there. And now it automatically does it for us. So that's another way you can use this tool. Again, all of this comes with experience and practice, sort of finding out all the different ways or all the different techniques or all the different applications of these tools. These are just a few that I'm giving as examples, right? In this section over here, we're just practicing with them. This is what I'm really stressing or I'm asking you to do, is to go out and actually play around with all of these tools. Do your own projects. Let's say find something that you want to design, something that you'd like to model, or just an interesting design that you'd like to copy. Just play around, practice, set your own goals, set your own projects in addition to the ones that are offered in this course, just so you can get a feel. The more hours that you spend using these tools, modeling, designing, all of these hours will contribute to your experience using the program. And you might learn something, you might figure out something new, a different way to approach sort of some modeling challenges. Another one over here is the polygon tool, right? This one can, okay, so let's clear the workspace. So obviously, let's say you want to design, as an example, a bolt, right? So what you have over here, you have the diameter of the shape. Yeah, this one is six sides, but let's see if we can go into the properties tab of this, if SpaceClaim wants to let me today. Yeah. Let's go into properties. Or maybe it wants me to select it first. Okay. There we go. Number of sides. We can change that to 7 over here. You can change it to 8 if you wish. So pretty much with this polygon tool, right, obviously we might have touched upon a bit. All right, let's go over it one more time, because again, the more you use these tools, the more confident and comfortable you'll be. So it's always good to practice, to redo, to clear the workspace, to do it one more time just to get into the hang of things. And that's what I'm doing. I'm sort of showing you over here how you can do it. So right, when you first draw the polygon, you see there's nothing over here, there's nothing in the properties tab. It just gives you the diameter, the dimensions, right, or the circular diameter of the circle that encompasses it. So this is sort of 8. No, I wanted a circle. So if we do a circle also of diameter 8, it sort of shows you that the diameter of this one is sort of from the face to the face, right? So pretty much what happens is circular diameter that we have over here. Yeah, if I put it at 8, yeah, and I draw circle here, and I put this at 8, it's because of how it wants to edit these two or sort of put them together. If I put this at 8, now this circle, the diameter is at 8, and this hexagon, the diameter is also at 8. It's from corner to corner, not edge to edge. That's just something I wanted to show you. I was having a bit of difficulty because, as I mentioned previously, when you draw different intersecting geometry, intersecting lines and whatnot, certain relations are held between the geometry. So over here, these points are now coincident of the polygon with the circle. So when you edit something, it would generally try to edit it all together. Now it's not doing it. It was doing it previously. That was interfering with my demonstration. But that's something that happens sometimes. Happens irregardless of your experience. Sometimes the SpaceClaim or the workspace throws something at you, it throws you a curveball, but as long as you understand the tools, you can sort of rectify that, because generally what it does is it tries to predict what you're trying to do, and if you try to do something and it predicts it wrong, it'll give you some wrong results. But that's not a problem. It's very easy to undo, redo, edit, so don't panic if it doesn't do exactly what you intend to do. So when we drew it, when we didn't select it, gave us no properties. But once you do select it, it gives you a set of properties, or you can right click and select properties. You can edit it. So if you don't want a hexagon, you want a pentagon, which is 5 sides, you can edit it over here. And it obviously affects the dimensions. And again, you'd be wondering, okay, what's the dimensions? If it's the dimensions of, or the diameter of the encompassing circle, right? So if you draw a circle around this geometry, it'd be the diameter of that circle, as I showed in the previous example. You can even, using the polygon tool, you can make a square if you wanted to, or a rectangle, right? You can even make a triangle using this methodology. Obviously, if you put just 2 sides, it cannot create that geometry, because for it to only have 2 sides, that would draw a line. The more sides you get on this geometry, the closer it becomes to a circle. But it's just, just a quick overview of the polygon tool. You can use that for a few purposes. Let's say if you're designing, like I mentioned, designing a bolt, you want to sort of create that for the bolt head, and then you can sketch on the surface over here. Obviously, we'll cover this more in depth later on. Then just pull this out. And then we have sort of an example of a bolt that we can do, right? To actually add the threads in onto this bolt, that's a much more complicated process that we'll obviously describe later on in a different week. But this is just a quick example of how we can use some of these drawing tools to help us on our modeling journey, or to help us create what we desire, or what we want, what we wish. Obviously, we covered the, let's do tangent arc, right? So what this one does is, if you have a circle, you can click on a line, and that would create a tangent to that line, or a tangent arc to that line. Also works, let's say, if you have a line, and where is it? There we go, tangent arc. It creates a sort of tangent to that line, or to that point where you described it. Sort of like just a simple arc tool, but this arc, sweeping arc, you select the center, then you select the 2 points of the arc. It's just different tools, different modeling techniques. Obviously, you can achieve most of these effects. There we go, there's the tangent line. That's what I wanted to show you. See how I click the circle, I click the curve, and then you can draw a line, but it remains connected with the circular curve. It's another thing that you can use. Obviously, you can change the angle. You can set it at 170 degrees from the horizontal. Just different different things, different modeling tools that you can use. Points can be quite useful. So I'm not saying that some of these tools that I've just shown you right now are not useful, like the ellipse or, you know, the 3-point circle. They each have their own purpose. Some purposes are more encompassing than others, you know, but you can achieve most of these things or most of these effects using a combination of tools or just one simple tool, as I've shown you with the rectangle, how you can have a slanted rectangle, but you can achieve the same effect using a normal rectangle and rotating that geometry. One more useful tool that I can show you is when you click select, obviously you can select each one individually. If you hold Control, you can select multiple ones. Same with Shift, you can select multiple lines. You can go into the design tree, you can select all of them here using Shift and click. You can also, if you expand the select tool with the bottom arrow, you can use a lasso, box, polygon, paint, boundary. What are all of these? So pretty much, if right here what I'm doing, when I'm clicking and dragging, this is the box select tool, right? But pretty much it's a bit hard to show you if you don't actually see my keystrokes or key motion. But pretty much if I just have a simple select, selected, you can click and drag and this will create a box, right? But this is called the box tool. But if you click and you specifically select box, you can click once and let go. You don't have to click and hold the left mouse button down and drag. Just click once, and then after you let go of the middle mouse button, it's pretty much the same effect as clicking and dragging, but it's, you know, it's a shortcut just straight from the select tool. Just clicking and dragging does the box selection. If you use box tool, you can just click once, drag, click again, something like that. That's also, you know, useful in certain situations where you have a lot of geometry, where you need to zoom in and out when making your selection. You can also use a lasso, which is pretty much you just lasso around, sort of, if you imagine you have a rope and you want to encompass all of them, or, you know, using a freehand drawing. You can use a polygon. So once you intersect all of the lines in that area, this can be useful if you want to select, let's say, here only this side, except this line. You can do it that way. It's a couple of, you know, interesting, more advanced techniques. I didn't include this into the main body of lesson 1. This is just in the practice section, because these are not, they're not often used, you know. It's some more, let's say, advanced techniques. They're very niche. You only use them in certain situations, certain scenarios, because instead of actually clicking the polygon tool and selecting them, you can, you know, hit Control All, then hit Control and click on that, and it deselects it. It's much faster than actually going down, selecting the polygon box, drawing a polygon around, or using the lasso and drawing around. You know, you can achieve the same effect using less complicated or less complex methods. But I thought, if we're already doing this, you know, overview or run through the tools, a bit of practice, might as well show you what there is, you know, in SpaceClaim, some other tools that we can use, you know, apart from the major or more important ones, some of the peripheral ones, some of the ones where, you know, you might be interested. You might say, oh, actually, you might accidentally click when you wanted to click select. You might click on the bottom one, and you see all of these options, and you're like, oh, what are all of these options? You know, you might be a bit confused. Obviously, SpaceClaim, once you hover over something, it gives you a brief overview, a brief description of how the tool works or what it's used for. But it's always good, you might be a bit confused. It's good to give an overview of some of the things that you might encounter, you might see, just so you don't get scared, or if you have a specific application that you think is directly suited to that tool, you can use that. So obviously in the course we've discussed how you can create a cylinder, how you can create a sphere. You can also actually create a cylinder using the cylinder tool, right? Obviously I've created it on my sketch plane, but if I go into 3D mode, you can see that it's created a cylinder. Now, how did that work? So pretty much you define the height of the cylinder and the thickness of the cylinder. And this, allows you to quickly create a cylinder, because this is used in quite a few applications. Just, with 2 simple clicks of the height and the thickness, or the diameter of this cylinder cross section, and you can create a simple cylinder like that. Again, this will give you, just some interesting results, or a quick way of creating it. The same thing with a sphere. If you just click the sphere tool, and let's go into sketch. Let's select the sketch plane. Yeah, this can let you create a sphere very quickly, very easily, just with 1 click and drag, just to define the sphere geometry. Because in essence, that's really what it is. A sphere is pretty much, it can be defined just with 1 dimension. Now we're going a bit into the mathematics of what a sphere is. It's, it all depends on the radius. So if you know the dimension of the radius, you can create a sphere just from that, right? So if we're going back onto 3D mode, or if we just select the solid and delete that, you can also use the equation tool to create something, but this is going into some very complex mathematics. This is when you're doing some real clever design or parametrics. You have curve types. You can import some actual different dimensions. You can see this is some really interesting dimensions, not something that we see every day. Obviously, this is for more complex parametric modeling, but if you are interested in that field, you can use equations and you can define, obviously, the X, Y, Z parameters, the start and end, different ranges, all of these different, can define some equations. You can use cosine, sine, different angles, but it's way more effort and way more complicated than this course can cover in such a short time. And if you don't have a good understanding of mathematics, it can get really confusing really fast. So I'm not gonna cover that into too much depth or too much detail, but it is over there if you're interested in exploring it in more depth, or if you're studying or have a degree in mathematics, or you're working towards a degree in mathematics or physics, or your job or your future job that you're interested in deals with that, then it might be a useful tool for you to explore or for you to investigate. But that pretty much covers sort of the drawing tools that we have, the important ones, and some of the not often seen tools, like the 3-point circle, 3-point rectangle, 3-point circle, ellipse, polygon, some of different select methods that you can use, how you can create cylinders and spheres using the body buttons, how you can create a 3D object using an equation. But please try to focus on the main tools, which is the line tool, the circle tool, the 2-point rectangle, how you can use construction lines when you want to do a pull sweep or pull rotation. Try to practice with the normal, pull tool. Just that for week 1. If you know the basics, you can really create most of the things that some of these other complicated tools that I've shown you over here can create. But it will just take you a bit more time, a bit more effort. But considering that the time and effort that you would spend actually troubleshooting some of these more advanced tools, in that time you can create the same effect, the same geometry using the simple tools and just a few more clicks. But in the end you can achieve the same effect. So don't be discouraged if you say, oh, I'm not comfortable with some of these other tools, or if you don't know all of the tools in too much detail. As long as you know the basics, you can get by and you can create pretty much geometry or models for most, 90% of applications.